introduce you to Dr. Joe Griffin, a speaker, consultant, and author's intention is teaching that talk is to broaden their vision. The things they weren't taught when they brought up as children. Reach for the top, regardless of situations, predicaments, or your conditions. He's making history, all of the districts, increasing retention from teachers, 50 to 80%. They ain't all that you hear me. He is the mentor. He paved the way with his tip methodology. Really, dream, be persistent, face fears, seek change, go out and go get it. This what you learning with Dr. Joe Griffin. With Dr. Joe Griffin, yeah. He says recognize trauma, push past the pain. If you got a problem, go look at his frame. Work your perspective and look at it change. Find a goal, set it in critical thing. Manage time, self-awareness. These are the few of the things he's trying to get you to do every day. Do every day. Led 5 schools to increase test scores with his teacher principal collaboration. Things he gives to you will have you take your drive to the next level. But first, you need to get some fuel at gas station. Supporting education leaders, creating a culture for kids that'll last for ages. Lack of access to quality professional development, that's outrageous. Got his doctorate in education, leadership, research, make changes. Need to put the kids first and raise them. Need to teach them they worth, stop playing. Later on, they gon' run this nation. Dr. Joe with his dissertation taught to those who would fix, make changes. I introduce you to Dr. Joe Griffin, a speaker, consultant, and author's intentions. The teaching and talk is to broaden their vision. The things they weren't taught when they brought up as children. Reach for the top, regardless of situations, predicaments, or your conditions. He's making history, all of the districts, increasing retention from teachers, 50 to 80%. They ain't all that you hear me. He is the mentor. He paved the way with his dip methodology. Really, dream, be persistent, face fears, seek change, go out and go get it. This what you learning with Dr. Joe Griffin. With Dr. Joe Griffin.
Great day, leaders. Welcome to the Speaking Life and You Leadership live stream. I am your host, Dr. Joe Griffin. It's week 28. We talk leadership dynamics, personal and professional growth, educational trends, and we provide solutions to help you with school improvement to create a culture of collaboration. Let's go! It's indeed a great day, you all. I'm happy. I'm overjoyed to be with you on today. It's just a beautiful thing that we're present. It's a beautiful thing that we're present. I am just getting off a plane on yesterday, and we know the horrendous things that have been going on with the planes and with the air traffic control. So I'm thankful to have made it to the East Coast, currently in Boston, Massachusetts area. Be heading on up to New York City for the Innovative School Summit this week, where I'll be presenting my DIP approach for educators. Discipline culture plus instructional practice equals performance. So definitely proud of that. Also, Black History Month. So we definitely want to continue to be honorable of it. We've definitely got to continue to stand on the backs of our ancestors and those that have come before us. With that, I definitely want to just play a quick video. It's just a video about one of my people who have inspired me, Mr. Richard Wright.
Great day, you all. It's Dr. Joe Griffin here, and I want to highlight Mr. Richard Wright in the honor of Black History Month. Mr. Richard Wright was
Come on. Oh, wow. Okay, don't know what's going on with the technology, but Richard Wright, he was one of the people that inspired me. His most notable book, Black Boy, it talked to me at a young age, about 7th or 8th grade. I recall reading it, and it just talked about his struggles in the South. And those were many of the same struggles that really continue today, those blatant, horrific incidents. And he was one of the first African-American artists to actually protest. He left the United States and went to France. He also wrote Uncle Tom's Cabin, Native Son, and a variety of other notable works that he was able to put forth. And the fact that he was from the South, that also inspired me with me originally being from the South also. So Mr. Richard Wright, that's our highlight for this week, Black History Month. So definitely want to stay with that. Also want to continue to send out prayers for the victims of the fire in LA. Again, I was very, very near to that situation. So I actually rode out to the Palisades and saw some damage. You couldn't get all the way back through it because of they had the military, had different police agencies and things like that kind of guarding off the area. But it was a sad thing to see houses, big houses, many of them just down for acres and acres and acres of land, and people lost so much. So we definitely want to continue to have moments of silence, pray when you pray. Definitely think about people other than ourselves, because that's what leadership is about, you all. And with that being said, I definitely want to start out with a quick topic before we get to our guest for today. Success is in the believing and the doing. And this is something that we have to really think about, because so much we just think about the result. So many times we just think about the ending. But success is in the believing, but it's also in the doing. Working toward that goal of pulling up your school rating, working toward empowering your teachers to be the leaders that they need to be, working toward being who you want to be in your personal lives as well. But success is in the believing and in the doing. We can't let self-doubt step in and stop our processes. For instance, you got principals, leaders, teachers right now waiting on next year, saying that we've done all we can do this year. But you got March, April, May. You got June in some places, 3 to 4 months left to really put in your best work, your best effort. Success is in the believing and in the doing. You can't just put the brakes on and start pausing for the next opportunity when you still have the opportunity right there in front of you. So I want people to really just think about that, because nothing happens overnight. Nothing is just going to be there just because we want it. We got to put that work in. And that's why I continue to say success is in the believing, because if you believe in what you're saying and you have trained your mind to eliminate doubt, eliminate fear, eliminate the opinions of others, if you're able to do that and keep the success in the believing, that allows you to actually get to the doing, the performing. Remember, we always talk about, in the educational sense, discipline culture plus instructional practice equals performance. So in order to get to that performance, again, you got to believe that, you got to know that success is in the believing, then those processes that lead up to the doing. And then you get the results that you're working so hard for, you all. So with that being said, I do want to go ahead and get toward what we got going on today. We're talking about amplifying student success. I have a wonderful, wonderful, experienced guest who has done a lot of work in school improvement. And she is also, well, let me just tell you, I'm going to pull up and then I'm going to read her biography. Good afternoon, Dr. Anderson.
Good afternoon.
I'm so happy that you're able to join with us today. I know that the viewers are going to be blessed by your presence, blessed by your knowledge, and everything that you have to share this afternoon. So I thank you from the beginning for coming on. And I want to read your biography, and then we'll jump into some of our conversation. That's all right with you.
Sounds like a plan. It's great to be here.
All right. Awesome. Dr. Jerry Lee Anderson is a native of Denver, Colorado. She earned a Bachelor of Science from Vanderbilt University in secondary education and social sciences. She continued her education at the University of Colorado at Colorado Springs, earning a Master's of Arts in Curriculum and Instruction and a Doctorate of Philosophy and Educational Leadership from Loyola University in Chicago. Dr. Anderson has taught a variety of subjects from grade 4 to the postgraduate level and has taught both general and special education. She has provided equity leadership and has played a significant role in improving academic performance in schools where she has served as principal. Currently, Dr. Anderson is principal of historic Bloom High School in Bloom Township High School District in Chicago Heights, Illinois. Over the years, Dr. Anderson has been recognized for her leadership and service to the community through a variety of awards. Educator of the Year, It Takes a Village Award, as well as the Commanders Award. I bring to the stage Dr. Jerry Lee Anderson.
Thank
Hey,
you.
Doc.
Hello there. It is so great to be here today. I'm so looking forward to our conversation.
Definitely. And I'm looking forward to it as well. I'm going to go ahead and pull up one of our topics to begin with. And when I asked you about your particular passion points, I just knew literature would be one of them because we've connected on a few things before. And literature also is one of my passion points, being an English major, professor of English as well. And I just always prided myself in that area. And being able to take it to schools to boost up other areas as well. Could you just tell us a little bit about your background in literacy and what it means to you?
Well, I'll just start with you can't do anything if you can't read. Reading, that saying that reading is fundamental is not overrated at all, because you have to be able to read. And I was in the process of getting a master's in special education when I moved to Colorado and met this wonderful professor, Dr. Barbara Swaby, and with her began to pursue my master's in curriculum and instruction, specifically reading. And with her, I learned there are so many things that we can do to really start our students to be literate at a very early age. And I learned some great lessons from her. And luckily, my own children were very young at the time. And one of the things that we did, for example, is every single item that could be labeled in our house was labeled, so that my children learned to see words like they learn to see things. You see a door, you see the word door. You see a cabinet, you see the word cabinet. So everything in our house was labeled. And just to heighten that curiosity about words and about language. And reading to children starts in utero. It does not, you do it every day. You do it all the time. So funny. My oldest son, he told me, he says, Mom, when I read today, I still hear your voice in my head. That's how much we read together when he was young. Parents just don't understand sometimes, I think, how important it is to read with their children and to discuss. If it's a novel, if it's what's going on in the news, what's going on in the world, you are helping to ignite that curiosity around literacy, around reading. Through a diagnosis and remediation of reading difficulties that students were having, there's just fundamental things that can be done that can help students with reading. Sometimes they're just having problems with a particular consonant, particular vowels, looking at words in context. Sometimes it's the way their eyes are tracking. Just finding out what is it that's going on that's stopping our students from reading and comprehending the way they need to. How do we teach them to question as they're reading? To go back and review, make sure that they're understanding what's taken place. How do we teach them vocabulary, pre-teach them vocabulary to make sure that then when they come across those words, when they're reading, they're meaningful and they mean something to them. And of course, helping them to use these words and the words that they learn in their everyday lives. It's not just about reading in a book and that be the only place that you see things. Literacy is so important. Every school that I've been in, we have managed to improve what we've done around reading. And it's really about teachers having that knowledge about reading also. All of those literacy skills that teachers can teach through their content. Like, we know how to read our content, right? We've learned. But how do we teach our students and empower them to do different types of reading? Because we know all reading is not the same. So I am very passionate about reading and helping our students become great readers.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And I heard you go into labeling items at home, and that's a key strategy I want to highlight for parents. I hope they pick that up, because that's something that they can do from yay to yay,
That's right.
from the beginning to the end. That's something that's good, and it's also a visual. Visuals increase the learning by 65 to 400%, depending on the learner. So I love the way you introduced that as far as helping our parents. Then you talked about active reading concepts as well. So I love that as also as a principal. One of the things I used to use for literacy, really across the board, was reciprocal teaching with my teachers, and they funneled it down to the students, where they taught the kids to summarize, question, as well as clarify. And it's done in a way where it's facilitated. So the kids, the students, are actually implementing the systems themselves. How would you say that schools can kind of build a culture that prioritizes literacy beyond just reading and beyond just English classes?
Okay. Well, I'll tell you one of the things that we've done recently. We have like choose a few books, and we have our kids choose what books they want to read. We had to choose a few different ones because kids have all different kinds of interest. And we actually had a read in the library. I had a read in the library, where I invited students who had read certain books to come and eat and read and discuss the reading that they're doing. We did it during the day. It can happen after school. One of my librarians in Colorado did an excellent job in bringing in authors. Just just Google Meet, Zoom with an author, and talk about an author, have an author talk about their book, why they wrote it, what they were thinking. Let students ask questions about what it is that they're doing. I also had a really neat school one year, and they actually did a writing contest where students actually wrote short stories, and they binded them into these little books, and they had a reading competition with these short stories that students had written across the school, because reading and writing, they're very closely connected.
Yes.
Right? So so that's some of the things that I've done in different places. Reading it can open up worlds for students, you know. And currently at my school, I have an online library where kids can access thousands of books right there from their phone or their devices, just using their school email address. It's called Sora. And we have that app available for our kids so they can read it anytime. And I love that my teachers are beginning to catch on, because they're like, Dr. Anderson, can you make sure that this title is available and this title is available? And when a kid stops you and says, hey, I was looking for this book in Sora, can you make sure that book is in there? You know that you're doing what you need to do, that you're inspiring kids to read beyond just what they have to do for class.
Definitely. Wow. You hit a key point again. Ann Quinlan, she quotes as saying, "It's only two ways to learn how to read and write. One is to read, and the other is to write. That's the only way you do it." And I like to add to that, you'd have to do it at high volume, frequently, and of course, practice your different strategies that you learn. So thank you for that as well. And with that, reading, writing, speaking, listening, we know they all go together. As one increases, so do the other. All our communicatory skills work together. So thinking of that along with the reading and the writing, that kind of goes right into another one of your passion points, which is student voice. Why would you say that student voice is so important in our educational systems today?
Well, I just want you to think about how many times adults have gotten together, put in hours and hours of planning into something they're about to roll out, some program, some new initiative, and then they roll it out with students and it falls flat. And they're like, I don't know what happened. We looked at all the research. The research said this. It should have worked like this. But the one thing that they never took time to do was to touch base with their students, see what their students were thinking, see what they thought about it. Their voice can lead to them being even more successful. Because if you ask them, they're going to tell you. You know, sometimes they're going to tell you more than you even want to know, they will tell you. But I think their voice is so instrumental in their success and the success of our schools.
Awesome. And to kind of, I guess, to take that even a step further, some of the various platforms that we tried to elevate student voice in, for instance, of course, your SGA, Student Government Association, of course, with your different awards, you want to, let your students opportunity to speak, awards, presentations, and things of that nature. What are some ways that you have implemented or things that you've implemented to elevate student voice?
One thing that I've had for years is a principal's advisory council, where I have a group of students, and I don't do your typical application process. I'm like, come one, come all. If you're interested in coming, you're going to meet with me once a month, and we're going to talk about issues important to you. Let's get it done. And I've always had a nice group of students to come, and they will tell me what's happening in the school around them. They will tell me what they need. They will tell me what's interfering with learning. They will tell me what they need to better learn. And I really enjoy my advisory council. That's one thing I love a lot. I also like students talking to students. One of the things that we did in Colorado that I thought was very powerful were our diversity panels, where students were able to tell their story to their peers. Like, what does it mean to be me? And really, that was a really powerful thing to get students to understand lived experiences of other people. They may be their age, but their lived experience can be so very different. I have a half cap ceremony coming up here in April. And half cap is where we celebrate students making it halfway to graduation. So all sophomores who have earned half credits to graduation will be celebrated. And I get students to talk to students. I will have a sophomore who excels talk to their peers about how they're doing and what they're doing in their journey together. I will have a senior come in to talk to students about what's up ahead and what they can expect and why it is so important for them to stay the course. I've also been in schools where we brought back our college students to talk with our seniors. And I tell you, that's also something that's really powerful because they can come back and they can say, okay, this is what happened last semester. Here's what you're doing here, but here's what happened in my first semester of college or my first year of college. Kids talking to kids is it's important because sometimes they will listen to each other better. And sometimes they will just tell it just like it is. And not only to each other, but also to us. And sometimes we need to hear it.
Definitely. And the crowd, you're listening in, let us definitely know where you're zooming in from, where you're checking us out from, because Dr. Anderson has already dropped a lot of gems today. So we're going to definitely keep it going. You just mentioned peer mentoring. You talked about having students who have gone through the system, graduated, basically alumni coming back and talking with students as well. That's a powerful concept. And it brings me to a memory of one of the events that our administrators and training program used to put on at one of my schools. We did what you call a career expo, and we would shoot for alumni, career people. We had doctors, lawyers, we had HVAC, nurses, teachers, basically whatever career person that we could get. Of course, we planned it out. It was months in advance, but it was an initiative that the administrators and training program took on. But we were able to bring all of those people. We ended up with about 60 different professionals from the community, and the students were able to pre-schedule which ones they wanted to see. So they got a chance to see 4 or 5 of them. They rotated through, but it was a great opportunity for them to hear from the career people that they wanted to be like, and also an opportunity to express themselves with the information that they learned. So I definitely thank you for leading into that. and to those strategies that, again, I hope everyone is listening to and catching on really, really quickly too. So, and that kind of helps go into the next question that I have for you, as far as moving from leading students, but also facilitating them to being able to lead together. And you kind of mentioned that. So would you kind of expound on that just a little bit?
Sure. In some of the places, I keep saying, I've been a principal for a while. And over the years, I've had different opportunities to really have students involved in every aspect of school leadership. For example, in one of my schools, we actually had students on our leadership team. So when all of our department chairs got together and met, we had a student voice in the room. When we're looking at our school improvement plan and when we're talking about the goals that we want to set, have a student voice in the room. When we started our one-to-one initiative and we're going to bring your own device program into our school, we actually had students on the panel talking about, okay, here's how I use technology. Yes, that would work for me. No, we wouldn't do this. Yes, we probably would do this. So having them be a part of every phase. I mean, it's harder. It's not as easy in all places. I don't have as many kids involved on that level of leadership in my current position. I'm moving there, but it's when it is in place, it's incredible. Just the amount of insight that students can give you. And also, I think it makes adults be more on top of their game too, right? When you have kids in the room,
Mm-hmm.
it kind of makes you kind of think twice about what comes out of your mouth,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because what you're doing is you know that you are setting an example for students. You are training future leaders to become leaders. So whatever initiative, whatever you're doing, involve students from the planning level. When it comes to your school improvement plan, when it comes to your leadership teams, the more you can have students represented, the better I believe that your results will be, because you will have an authentic student voice. And I'll tell you, even sometimes if I'm in between meetings, I might even just stop in the hall and pull a few kids and I say, hey, come here, let me do you have time? I'd like to talk to you about this. This would be really, really a great thing to do. So come on by. Come and stop by my office. I want to talk about whatever it is we're about to do. Or sometimes it's just a quick stop in the hall. Hey, did you saw that new stand we have over there? What do you think about it? It also helps kids know that they are valued. Our kids need to know they are valued. We are not, this is not the sage on the stage days where the teacher's all knowing and knows everything and the kids just sit there and suck up all the information. Honestly, we are often learning from each other. I can remember walking down the hall. I had my iPad. I was walking. This kid looks over at my iPad, puts his finger over here, doot, doot, doot. And all of a sudden I had this big, beautiful picture that I didn't have before. I'm like, what did you just do? Well, I know that just know, yeah, you didn't know that part, but I just thought I'd show you that real quick. They're smart about a lot of things that we don't always give them credit for knowing, right?
Yeah.
And how do you act when you feel that you are being honored, when you feel that you're being recognized, when you feel that you're valued? Doesn't that influence your attitude? Doesn't that influence what you think your altitude may be? When people value you, value what you have to say, value who you are as an individual, I think it matters.
Oh yeah, it definitely matters. It definitely matters. You can elevate people to new and unimagined levels, and that again, that goes right into our next topic of conversation when we're talking about collaboration. Definitely want to appreciate Miss Crystal Reddick. Appreciate you. Always great to watch. Always sharing valuable information. Also, Dr. Don Parker chimed in. He said he saw you at the summit last month, Dr. Anderson. So, hello to everyone. I always try to lead from a lens of connecting, empowerment, and then collaborating. And with that, what do you think some of the most effective principles of collaboration are for you as a leader, and how you pass that down to teachers and students?
I have found that you really can't do anything alone.
Yeah.
I mean, you can work really hard, but you really can't go very far by yourself. And that working collaboratively really gets the best information in the room, gets the best decisions to be made overall for everyone when you make them in a collaborative manner, because none of us are all knowing,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And when you have people that bring forward their expertise, their understanding of a situation, it can stop you from like falling into pit holes that you might otherwise fall into if you had only known, right? Um, and collaboration requires a certain amount of trust. And teachers too want to feel valued, want to feel that their word is important. Um, and as you build a more and more trusting relationship, sometimes you don't even have to reach out to get people to collaborate. People will jump in and say, how can I help?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I had 2 such emails just this weekend. I sent out some information I'd put together with a few people, and it was like, hey, Dr. Anderson, I can facilitate this part for you. What do you need to get finished? What do you need to do this part? I mean, because when we all own the work belongs to all of us. So I think collaboration is like between principals and teachers and in between teachers. Professional learning communities, I tell you, they matter. They make a difference. When teachers truly come into the room and ask, what do we want students to learn? How do we know when they've learned it? What do we do when they haven't? And what do we do when they already know it? When they're asking those fundamental questions and they're really working together, it makes a difference. It can propel achievement.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Yes, it can. Working together, we do so much more together than we can alone, as you mentioned before. We can go farther. We have more points of view, more perspectives to digest and to look at. So we definitely can push each other further than we could ever go alone. Are there any particular strategies that you've seen work as far as building up the collaboration between teachers and principals, as well as between teachers and students? Just, I like to call it systemic collaboration. Have there been
Systemic
any
collaboration.
systemic collaborative processes that you have seen? And I actually define it in Empowering Educational Leaders, a guide for teacher-principal collaboration.
So some of the things that I've done, for example, right now I have a school planning committee that consists of representatives from every department. I'm not talking about my department chairs. I'm talking about boots on the ground, the teachers in the classroom. Have representatives from every department, and we look at our data. We look at both our qualitative and our quantitative data to see what we see, and talk and plan together for how to move that data in the direction we would like to see it move. And we also talk about barriers and boosters. What's stopping us from getting where we want to be, and what's propelling us forward, so that we can get more things propelling us forward and remove some of those barriers. And teachers will know. I really like to have my classroom teachers really engrossed in that collaboration with me, and then with each other. It is about having the conversation about the data. Look at the data. Let the data lead you. You know, we have to leave our egos outside of the room sometimes, and we just have to genuinely look at what the facts are telling us. You know, if the facts tell you that you're not doing too well, if the data says you're not doing well, I guess you got to listen.
Yeah.
The data's telling you you're not doing that well.
Yeah,
You
do
know,
something.
so I've had from time to time where people will say, well, you know, we're doing a really good job with this, but our scores are this. Well, wait a minute. That doesn't go together.
Right.
If we're really doing everything that we say that we're doing well, our scores are improving. You know, and I mean, we might not be where we want to be, but they're showing improvement, and not just a little tiny bit of improvement. You know, we want the kind of improvement that moves us significantly, because our kids don't have time. High school students are with you for 4 years. They don't have time for you to make tiny, tiny steps. So collaboration and really, really being willing to look at that data, it matters. And having norms. I am a big proponent of norms. Um, the reason why I like norms so much is because it allows you to talk about how you're going to work well together before the work ever begins.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing that you can do besides having norms is talk about what are you going to do when you come to a time where you have conflict. Conflict is inevitable. And conflict is not all conflict is bad. It doesn't have to be bad, but it cannot be stifling. So you do need to have a plan that if you are collaborating and you come to an impasse or things get to be difficult, how have you agreed ahead of time to problem solve? Don't wait until you get into the throes of doing things. Hopefully your norms keep you going steady on a regular basis. Um, and really, you're not talking about 10 norms. You know, you're talking about 4 or 5 norms that can be very helpful, that require you to listen to one another, to respect one another's opinion, right?
Yeah.
To have a certain amount of, to keep conversations in the room. I mean, there's so many fundamental norms, but talk about it with your team. What is going to, and I should tell you, I have norms in my classrooms too. It's not just norms for the adults. We have norms created for all of our classrooms too, because in classrooms too, there need to be agreement. What is it going to take for us to work together well?
Yes. Too often we just assume that things are already known, that everyone understands how to be on the team,
Mhm.
that everyone knows that they should even sometimes do their part or sometimes do more than their part to make sure that things go as we hope them to go for as a team. But if you haven't been held to that standard of commitment and accountability, you won't know. So as the leader, I'm very happy that you mentioned providing those norms, those expectations from the onset to ensure that we meet our goals, that we stay on track to where we're trying to go. That is crucial. I also heard you mention barriers and boosters. I like the way you phrased that, because we're going to have them. But how we move past them, how we continue to resolve them, that's a key component of discipline culture, how we collaborate to handle the issues, whether it's student to student issues, student to adult issues, or what I like to call the elephant in the room, the adult to adult issues. All of affect the instructional practice that teachers are willing and able to use. What kind of advice would you give to, or what would you tell a leader or a teacher who is struggling with creating a culture of collaboration in their environment?
Well, you know, teachers are operating in 2 types of environments. One, their classroom environment, you know. Even with students, besides starting out for those norms, making sure that they know their voice is important, make sure that they know that there are some consistent things that happen in that classroom. They know what to expect from you, and you in turn should know what to expect from them. Having that really succinct, having that real conversation. I think, as you said, though, that whole thing about adult to adult
Yeah.
really can be one of the most challenging things for teachers.
Yeah.
And you know, for me, it all goes back to remembering why we're there. What is the purpose? What is the work of our work? And for me, when we can concentrate on the work of our work, when we can go back to our purpose, we can get past any barrier.
Yeah.
You know, we can have different opinions, But if we keep in mind that our students and their success is at the forefront of everything that we do, we can accomplish anything.
Definitely.
So sometimes you almost have to stop in the heat of the moment and say, what about this conversation is good for our students?
Mm-hmm. Powerful.
What do they need? Let's concentrate on them. Then we can work on us in the process. But let's concentrate on our kids.
I love it. That's powerful. Powerful information right there. And you talked about, basically what I heard was being able to get past differences, being able to see those problems and being able to reconcile them.
Yes.
And that is restorative practice.
Is restorative practices.
Being able to teach instead of just being punish, being able to correct misbehavior with an alternative versus just me throwing you under the bus, or me throwing a towel at you, or me not giving you the advice and the forward thinking that would have kept you out of the situation beforehand. That's whether it's with teachers or whether it's with students.
I am so into restorative practices. I would say this. So many people think about restorative practices from a reactive standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
But see, restorative practices are also proactive. You can be proactive. Restorative practices is really about building a community where everyone has ownership.
Yes.
Right? If you don't have a community, your restorative practices are not going to go too far. Because with restorative practices, people feel obligated to restore the community. When I do something to take away from the community, then I have to be able to have the conversation about what is it that I'm going to do to give back. So I'm a big person for mediations. We have a room we call the Peace Room at my school. And we do mediations between students, between families, and sometimes in between adults, where we just sit down and have that conversation, starting with our norms, going to why we are here, and having the real conversation about, sometimes we got to talk about what went wrong and how we're going to fix it. And sometimes we have to talk about, focus on where we're going. Because sometimes people can get mired in that what went wrong and why it went wrong part. So sometimes you just have to acknowledge it went wrong.
Right.
And talk about what are we going to do to go forward. I often ask students when I start the conversation with them, why are you here? Why are you here? What do you want to do with your life? What do you want to do? What do you want to be after high school? And really let them talk about a little bit about their dreams. And it's so funny. Sometimes I have students that are sworn enemies that actually have the same aspirations. It's amazing, right? And I have their parents talk about, why do you have your child here at this school? What is it that you want for your child? And then I get to the behavior. So is what happened, what brought us into the room today, something that's going to lead to you, student, pursuing your dreams, and you, parent, having your child realize the dreams that you'd like your child to realize? And usually the answer is no. And that's where we pivot that conversation right there. So what are we going to do going forward? Now, people have to understand we are not always going to like each other.
Right.
But that doesn't mean we have to hate each other.
Right.
That doesn't mean we have to be inhumane to each other. That doesn't mean that we don't have to, I tell kids all the time, I said, well, what are you going to do? Oh, I'm just not going to look at her. I said, that's not going to work. I said, basically being cordial, you would be surprised how far it can go into helping you heal this relationship. Definitely. Good morning, and keep it moving. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But, I was meeting with a young lady the other day and just talking about what's happening in the world around us right now and how she's feeling.
Yeah.
And it was with a group of, as actually with my principal's advisory council. And one of my students said, you know, Dr. Anderson, I feel like this is not the America that we want it to be right now. This is not the America that I always heard about and dreamed about. She says, I feel dehumanized.
Mm.
And, you know, we had to stop and have that conversation, because that feeling of being dehumanized, sometimes people want you to feel dehumanized, want you to feel devalued.
Yeah.
Right. And I said, and sometimes what you have to do is just not that. Do not feel dehumanized. Do not feel devalued. Know that you have value. Know that you are important. And know that this too will pass.
Yes.
Have we ever been in time periods where people have felt devalued, unimportant, mistreated, dehumanized? Yes, we have. And will we ever get there again? Probably. But can we get beyond this moment? Absolutely. And that's one of the things when I think about restorative practices and with our kids, you know, they make spontaneous decisions sometimes without really thinking about the implications. And, you know, I knew that my peace room was working and that my system of restorative practices was working when I have parents start to call me in the summer, Dr. Anderson, do you think you could hold a mediation?
In your peace room.
This happened in the community. Can we come in and do a mediation when school starts? I know it's not a school issue, but it's going to impact my child in school if we're unable to do a mediation. Can we do a mediation? There is power in mediation. There is power in helping to see each other's humanity and understanding what we have in common, and in a willingness to move forward in a harmonious way because we are part of the same community. There are no throwaway people. There are no throwaway people. There are no throwaway kids. I tell kids when they come into the peace room, I said, you know what? This is like a family.
Yeah.
Like a brother or a sister, a mom or dad. You know what? You can be estranged as much as you want to, but guess what? You don't get to throw people away. They are still there. And who feels worse? Who feels bad when things are strained? You don't even know how the other person's feeling, but you know how it impacts you. Why are you giving people power to make you feel bad? Where's your power? They do not deserve to make you feel bad.
That's right.
So we talk about that, how you can own your own emotions and your own feelings. And our students cannot learn when they are not in school. So this whole idea of giving back to the community and being a part of the community and repairing the harm that you've done means that you have to be a little bit creative with some of the consequences that you give students sometimes.
Okay.
Sometimes they can think of better consequences than you could think of because they really do think about them. But I can think back to some times where I've had some kids do some harmful things, as far as harmful to the feelings of other people. And the conversations that we've had about repairing that harm and what it's really going to take, they've been some powerful conversations and resulted in some powerful actions. And I will tell you, I don't have a lot of recidivism with my mediations. We're not back in that room because I the key people that mediate, I give them the responsibility for communicating that this is resolved.
I can see that. I can definitely see that just by your approach and your thinking on it. First off, you're teaching them how to believe in themselves through those social emotional concepts. And that's one of the things that I've been really starting to tackle over the last year and a half or two, because there were things that I feel like I just wasn't taught, that just wasn't brought to my attention. The fact that you are to expect to go through things, that you are going to deal with things that you don't want to deal with, but your idea is to keep believing, keep going, keep pushing through, not let up, to be resilient. But so often that's not taught, that that's a real thing as a mindset.
Yes.
You know, we say go do your best you can do, be the best you can be, but how? We don't give any layers within that concept on how you can be the best. Go tell yourself affirmations. Go study big people or bigger people who have done what you're trying to do, and things of that nature, and other things that can help foster or cultivate that belief in yourself, because you are what you think you are. We don't realize that, though. We don't realize we really are what we think we are. And once that concept is ingrained in us, oh man, that's so much power in it. And to make it a Black history note, I feel like we owe it to our ancestors to do that. And that's whether you one of the conscious people who are really aware of all of our history, or whether you one of the people who only know since slavery. Either way, we owe it to both groups. Before we came, when we were kings and queens, and also when we were here as slaves on plantations, we owe it to them to give your best. Success is in the believing, and it's also in the doing. Now, with your practices, Dr. Anderson, I know that it's not easy to set up an environment like that. What were some of the challenges, or how did you get past some of the challenges in ensuring that restorative practice become a staple in your administration?
One of the things when I first came in is I trained my deans, sat down, we did a professional development so they understand this is what restorative practices mean to me. This is the process. You know, this is a place where we can do it. I can remember, and it's always interesting how it starts in the beginning. Oh my goodness, Dr. Anderson, that takes so much time to do all those meetings, blah, 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 you know. But it has really become an ingrained part of our culture. And kids will come up to you and say, I need to do a mediation.
Yeah.
You know, I think you model it. Like, even still, sometimes when there's something that's going to be really difficult, they'll say, hey, Dr. Anderson, I think this mediation should be for you. Can you do this one? And I will take some of the hardest ones, the ones that people say are going to be impossible and this will never work. I absolutely do those, because those are the ones that I need people to see how you work through them. And I bring my people in the room with me, and I bring the people who need to be mediated, and I do the mediation. And, you know, mediation doesn't happen in a moment. You should plan for mediation. You know the situation, know the people who are involved as much as possible, you know, understand the conflict, knowing that you're not going to spend all your time delving, you know, just dwelling on the conflict, because the conflict is just the conflict. We're not going to stay there, but understand what led us to this point so that we can get out of it, right? So I really also help the kids see that it's possible. And once it catches on with your students, when your students see that you can mediate, when they see that it actually works, they'll tell them, no, y'all need to go have a mediation.
Yeah.
You need to have a meeting. You know, you need to go to the peace room, you know.
I love
it. And also even understanding their own emotions. I have a room now, I call it the calm room. And it's just a room with some comfortable furniture. It's blue. It's a quiet place.
That's different from the peace room.
Different from the peace room. Peace room is where we are.
I like it.
Bringing peace about through our mediations. We're coming to a peaceful resolution. But this quiet room is just, sometimes you just need to sit down and quietly reflect. You just need a few minutes, just a time out by yourself sometimes, in a nice place, nice surroundings, to get your head right to go forward. Now, isn't that powerful to teach a kid?
That's powerful.
That it's okay to step aside. It's okay to not be okay. But it's not okay to stay there. So what do we do? What do we do in those moments? Who do you go to? Where do you go? And what simple things do you use when you are getting to that moment where you feel like you are about to explode? And I tell kids, I said, you will see me. I said, just watch me. Watch me in the most heated moments. And I want you to tell me, what do I do first? And they'll tell you what I do because I breathe. I just stop, take a breath,
Yeah.
then I'm ready to go. Right? I said, because sometimes that's that moment of breathing and thinking will help center you. They have to learn to self-regulate. They have to learn to center themselves. Those hormones and those emotions that just get carried away and crazy, sometimes they need to learn to center themselves, go someplace quiet, or have somebody to talk to. And we have all of those things in our school available to our kids. Whether it's a dean, a counselor, a behavior specialist, a social worker, whether it's go to the quiet room, or if things have already things are brimming, because we can go to the peace room before things explode.
Definitely.
So just having those things for our kids, I think it really makes a difference in creating that kind of environment. And when I tell you there's no throwaway kids, I feel the same way. Young children of color need to be educated. They can't be educated when they're out of school. They can't be educated when they are not expected to be educated. I'm trying to think of this. It's kind of like a no excuses. Instead of, sometimes like think about it like grading. Well, you could just give a kid an F and give it back to him and you're done with it. But it's different to say, oh, no, 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 no. We're going to do this together. What didn't we understand about this? So you don't let someone get away with not doing what they need to do.
Yeah.
You put them in an environment where you expect them to do it. You support them in getting it done. You teach them how to do it if they don't already know how to do it.
Wow. You just kind of outlined one of the frameworks that I have, and it's self-development leads to self-awareness, which leads to self-regulation, which leads to self-mastery.
That's right.
I'm gonna say that again for my viewers so they can really hear what I just said. Self-development leads to self-awareness. Self-awareness leads to self-regulation. Self-regulation leads to self-mastery, the quest that we all should be on. And when we get to that state where we're able to control those emotions and then still balance it out with the things that we need to do, that's when we know we're growing and we're going into another realm of existence. And powerful, Dr. Anderson. I just thank you so much for being with me today and having this conversation. As we prepare to kind of get ready to close out, what's some advice? Because I know you've been in the game a long time. What's some advice that you would give to anyone who's listening? And I try to make our platform for not just the new and inspiring teachers and educators, but also educators who have been in the game for quite some time. So what kind of advice, what key takeaway would you give to them to just continue to be the best they can be and to be present as leaders?
For me, every day is a new day. Every day that the sun comes up is a new day, right? And I'm always working to learn and be the best person that I can be every day. And when I do something that is not in my own character, that is not what I want to have represent me, I own it and I take responsibility for it and I correct it, right? We just, there is no simple solution to being a good leader. It's a work in progress. And it's something that you work at every day. And, it's not being the best, but it's being better than you were yesterday. And if we can live that way, we can do some amazing things.
Awesome. And if you would share your information, I know that with all of your experience and as many great gems that you have shared with us today, that some people may want to reach out to you for I don't know why they might want to reach out, but I'm sure that there may be people who want to do that. If you would give your information, how they can contact you, that'd be awesome.
Oh, absolutely. Well, you can get me two primary ways. I'm sorry, every time I move in this chair, I'm making all kinds of noise. Sorry for the noise. You can drop me a text at any time. I'll give you my work cell, 708-571-6539. And hey, just say, hey, we want to talk. You can email me at my work email, janderson@s.sam.d.as.in.dog206.org. I also have my personal email, which is Jerry Anderson, just how you spell my name, jerryanderson.ja@gmail.com. Always feel free to reach out. I think that we become better together. So I'm always willing to help a colleague and always open to talking and having conversations. So anytime.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Dr. Anderson. And one last thing, I gotta put you on the spot just a little bit. If you would just tell quickly, because we actually did. I came to your school at Chicago Heights, and we were able to we started the process. We didn't do any coaching or anything along with it, but you actually got a chance to take, along with your leadership team, to take the Global DNA Behavior Leadership Assessment. Could you just say how spot on it was, or
I
what?
can tell you it was amazing. It was amazing. In fact, I can hear my team now saying, oh my goodness, what? This sounds just like me. Yeah, that's true. And one of the things I really liked about it, it helped us look at each other from a strengths base, a strengths basis, looking at our strengths. Who are we? What do we represent? What do we like? What's the best way to talk with us or communicate with us? And I really like that because for a team, it helps a team work together based on each other's strengths, right? And that's one of the things I really, really loved about it. And it's so spot on. I'm like, wait a minute. Wait, do you know me that well? How do you know that this is what I think? I mean, the assessment was spot on for all of my administrators. Everybody was amazed.
Okay, thank you for that. And I just wanted to do that because I could feel the power. I know that you all were able to say to have what you just said, those feelings. So I appreciate that. Additionally, to everyone, I definitely want to continue to let you know about my works. If you have not purchased the DIP approach for educators, discipline culture plus instructional practices, as well as empowering educational communities, a guide for teacher principal collaboration, what you waiting on? These are going to be books that are going to help you have the foundation that you need to create that collaborative experience. And it even comes with the professional development for each chapter to empower educational community. So make sure you jump out and get those. Otherwise, I definitely want to thank everyone for being here, whether you're live or whether you're coming back and catching the recording. We appreciate you. And as always, we want to always continue to try to lead and love with our heart, search for the wisdom that will take us where we need to go, and drain our fear from our hearts so that we can be courageous. Dr. Joe here signing off, always speaking and writing life into you. I'll speak to you in the back. Bye.